social loafing. There's a really interesting story in Ralph Debelly's chapter 33, where he tells us about a French engineer, Maximilien Ringelmann, who back in 1913 discovered that if you look at the power of two horses pulling a carriage or a coach, that the power of the two does not equal twice the power of one single horse. And you would imagine that it would. But on average, Ringelmann has worked out that if two individuals or two horses are pulling together, each one of them gives 93% of their individual strength at the time. If it's three horses pulling together, then it's reduced further to 85% of the individual strength. And when eight horses pull together, it goes as low as 49% each one is pulling. And this term for this is called social loafing, and it's actually a very rational behavior in society, because why should you invest all of your energy to, when half of it will actually be enough if you're part of a team? So essentially, in lots of occasions, teams can be lazy, but they're lazy unconsciously. So they're not so familiar with their direct performance because it blends into the group or into the team. So they're just not aware of this. And where does this fit into stroke rehabilitation? Well, from my own experiences of working in rehabilitation, it's important, and it's likely that your stroke survivor will work much harder if they're by themselves. It also, if they're watching other people, it's possible that they'll focus on, the abilities that they've lost rather than the actual improvements that they're making. So this is another reason. But it's awfully important, that stroke survivors are able to prove and see proof of their own progress. And sometimes, when they're in an environment by themselves, they can focus on this a little bit better. All of this idea of measurements and how stroke survivors can prove to themselves and prove to their caregivers they're making progress is all described in chapter 9 of Lightsmer's actions. And the final caregiver advice on this occasion is that, explain to your stroke survivor that being by themselves, working hard in their own homes can be much more productive than from working in teams. Just make sure that you warn them not to focus on everything that they've lost in terms of function, but just to try to focus on the progress that they're making. They'll find this much more beneficial in the long term. And again, not a disadvantage to be working in your own home by yourself, because apparently you put more effort and more energy into what you're trying to achieve.